Here we are. We're back again. Another day. Let's see what happens. Yeah, I don't know. We seemed pretty bullish, but that was a pretty bearish PPI this morning. Been going down since. Yeah. What a pretty muted open, if I do say so myself. Oh, didn't mean to do that. Or that. Jesus. Okay.
The Ashes of Creation
I had
was
to have
imploding
background
at
sound.
the end of January. It's sending on a genuine depression. It really did. I didn't want to make content, and I didn't even want to cover the drama. It fucking hit me hard, man. Ashes of Creation was the MMO that was my last hope when it comes to all the upcoming future MMOs. I liked the design of the game on paper. I liked a lot of the ideas. I gave it, like, just 2 weeks before it imploded, I gave it a 5 out of 10, with, like, potential to be, like, eventually a pretty good game after maybe a year or two of updates.
Jinkies.
Like, part of my
Like,
routine for so long, like,
that is the most dead open I've seen in a minute.
Of essentially checking in with it every month, and then it just fucking rug pulls randomly, out of nowhere. When I thought it was starting to slowly get to a decent place, man, that was really rough. But what was even more rough was finding out that this whole time there was indeed a board of directors, there were shareholders, and there was a bunch of shady people financing the game for a very, very long time, it seems. When the main reason why I was excited for Ashes is because we was told time and time again it was funded by one guy, and that there was no shareholders pulling the strings, no one else, no board of directors. If the game said it's not pay to win, not going to be pay to win, then it's not going to be pay to win because there's no publisher, there's no one influencing it. That's what we was told. That was the reason why I was so excited for Ashes of Creation, and why I wanted to support it throughout its very long development cycle. But to then find out that none of that was true, and that it was just a massive misrepresentation, I feel like I've been lied to, honestly. It feels really bad. The reason why my coverage of Ashes of Creation was, like, positive throughout all of the years, and I tried to remain more positive than negative, is number one, I wanted the game to exist. On paper, sounds like the kind of game that I would want to play. So by me covering the game positively, it increases the chance that it could maybe exist. That's one thing. And number two, I thought if it's being funded by one person and they're putting all their own money into it, then I'd want to support them. But just to find out that that's not true, yeah, it was a real shock, and it's massively damaged my reputation, because I would have covered the game completely differently if I'd have known that was the case from the start. I think everyone would have. I think a lot of people that covered Ashes of Creation was very supportive and wanted to help because they thought it was a grassroots MMO from one person. But yeah, when it comes to the whole, like, lawsuit and drama stuff, if you're not aware, like, fucking crazy, the accusations that are getting thrown around in either direction. Go check out Kira TV's videos for that, because he's done a really good job of covering it. I don't really understand legal stuff too much, so I just watch Kira's videos. He's happy to spend time learning all that stuff, so yeah. Make future of MMOs, it's looking pretty bleak, isn't it? What are we looking forward to now? Chrono Odyssey and the Riot MMO. Oh man. I'm gonna have to do some kind of forfeit to apologise to you guys, the ones that spent money on Ashes of Creation, even though I did say it's not in a state where you should spend money on it yet. I will do a forfeit for those of you that have spent money on it from watching my videos. I will do a Muay Thai fight in 2 or 3 months as punishment for. Maybe you'll feel better seeing me get punched a few times if you've spent some money on the game and you feel like you've gotten wrecked. I feel like I've gotten wrecked. I actually spent fucking thousands on that game. Like a lot of the pre-order stuff I bought, like cosmetics. And just so this is clear, no content creator ever received any money from Intrepid or Ashes. Not a single penny. Yes, it had its referral system, but that was only ever going to pay out if the game fully released. That's what was said from day one. So no one actually got paid, and I'm sure people won't believe me because I don't pay who believes me. But that information will probably come out in the court hearings when they disclose all the financials. I'm sure that is something that would be disclosed if it happens, but I can definitely say no one received any money. It seems like just everyone involved in the whole thing lost money. The investors lost money, the players lost money. I think Steven lost money. I think everyone just lost money. It was just a project that went 8 to 9 years, maybe 10 years into development. And it just never saw the light of day. What a fucking mess. Honestly, this video is awful to make. I feel so embarrassed having to make this video. I feel unbelievably ashamed of myself. And I was going to just maybe quit YouTube. But I like making videos. I don't want to quit YouTube. I don't want to quit YouTube because of something that was out of my control. And from something that I didn't have any information of. How could I have possibly known that this game had all of this bullshit going on behind the scenes? I think any reasonable person can see that. But I look like a massive clown.
Yeah, I just don't know if this is strong enough to keep going or not. We're gonna see, I guess.
Throughout its entire existence, I guess. It's sad because, yeah, I wanted it to exist and I thought it had potential, but GG. On to the next one. I'm not going to stop doing YouTube because I do like making videos. We got Crimson Desert coming out tomorrow, so that should hopefully be good. It's weird, man. Like all of the all of the games that I've been enjoying recently and looking forward to are either survival games or like survival RPGs or they're single player. Or you've got old school Escape, which I still love, and hopefully they'll be next in my Iron Man this year. So
I don't know if I can take this 5 in good faith with a 5 above it.
What else is there to say? It was really hard to try and stay positive throughout the development cycle of Ashes of Creation. There were times where like everyone was negative about the game. To be fair, I always said that there was definitely justifiable reasons for the negativity, but I tried my hardest to remain positive because I thought that being negative, just like for the sake of being negative, wouldn't help me get what I want in the game to exist, essentially. So I guess I was positive on the game for selfish reasons, in that I selfishly wanted it to exist. I don't know, man. I'm just fucking rambling like an absolute idiot. Nothing else to say, really. TLDR, I feel like I was lied to about the state of the funding of this game, basically from the start. If I'd have known that it wasn't entirely self-funded, I would have covered it completely differently, with a lot more skepticism. I feel devastated about the whole feel sad for the staff that randomly lost their job one day without any pay. It's going to be very entertaining seeing the court case and like seeing what actually happened, but that's probably going to take years to fully come out. And I think, yeah, I'll be doing it for my forfeit. I'll be doing a Muay Thai fight in 2 or 3 months as a way of saying sorry to the people that did lose money. If you watched one of my videos and spent money on the game, that would be my way of saying sorry. Watch me get my head punched in or something. I really am truly fucking sorry. I'm embarrassed that this happened, I guess. But all I can do is try and be better. Going forward, I'm just gonna treat every upcoming MMO that, unless proven otherwise, it's a scam. I think that's got to be the mindset that I have going forward for literally any other MMO. If an MMO comes to Kickstarter, it's not getting covered. There's no Kickstarter MMOs are ever getting fucking covered on this channel unless it's to be meme done. Because they're all just a fucking disaster, I swear. Oh, I can't talk to the camera anymore, bro. It's been 6 to 7 weeks and I haven't sat in front of the camera and spoke for a while. I've completely forgotten how to do YouTube. I feel rusty. I feel like I don't know what's going on anymore. I'm gonna try and make a decent video next time for Crimson Desert. But I just wanted to make a quick video talking about the Ashes situation. We move on, hopefully something...
Yeah, I really could see this long cooking. It's just hard though. We have some resistance that we're fighting against. But yeah, like I said, I think we have a good draw to the upside. I could see this shit banging. We're gonna see.
Other than that, there's a few things we could cover, I suppose. ESO, combat rebound, that looks kind of cool. Yeah. Onwards and upwards. Ashes of Creation, rest in peace, end of an era, no more monthly live streams. And I was wrong.
Yeah, see.
See you in the next one.
Evil human experiment that actually happens.
Here's the model I use.
The CIA knew that it was breaking, every moral, ethical, and legal law in the books to do these experiments.
But most, I feel like the big three are World War II Germany, World War II Japan, and then like 1990 to 2008 CIA did like the worst experiments on it. Stanford Prison
Pinkies,
Experiment,
yep.
I would not say
That might screw me. We're gonna see here.
Like the CIA literally just drugging people and seeing like the limits of the
Yep.
human body with, like,
Yep,
torture
I'm getting
programs.
touched on this. It looks like.
Yeah, I think the Stanford Prison Experiment wasn't actually meant to like be that bad from the start, and it did get bad, but not to the extent of like, Nazi doctors literally like trying to like see if the brains of twins could be switched or whatever weird shit they did. Giving people like just dead fetuses.
Yeah, I'm most likely cooked. Like I might come out of this, but I think I'm cooked. Actually, I'm gonna try something stupid. Let's see.
Working on like what a so-called truth serum would be, and so they would two American citizens. John Kiriakou talks about this, and I love watching this clip. But he said they would go around and
There's a bird outside going absolutely crazy.
And then they would drug them. They would like bring them to this area, drug them, and then try and get them to like tell them their darkest secrets or something. I'm like, imagine being a regular guy. Well, not regular guy, because that's a problem. Still, imagine being a guy in San Fran. You're like thinking you're gonna get laid, pay $100 for like some lady, and then you get fucking dosed with like high levels of acid, just interrogated to see like what you would spill. Like, oh my god. And they would put hummus up their ass. Yeah, they would do that.
We're not even local.
He says he's not going to go on. Please continue.
He says he doesn't want to go on.
We must continue.
Today, experiments have strict rules to protect people, but that wasn't always the case. In the past, researchers experimented on people without considering the consequences, and the damage often lasted a lifetime. In this video, we'll explore evil human experiments that...
Well, and then the most fucked shit too is they do all that, and it's so fucked up, and they're doing it for research.
Yes.
And to hide it, they fucking got rid of like 90% of the, papers on a lot of the shit they did. So all of it was for nothing. But I'm not saying it was justified at all. But like, you already did it. You might as well keep the information you gathered. But they destroyed it because they didn't want to get in trouble. So it's like, all right, well now we just did that for actually no reason.
actually happened, starting with the unsettling cases and ending with the most horrifying.
Unit 731, well, the U.S. also bought a lot of that information from the Japanese, from what they learned.
So it is the new year, guys, and I want to encourage you guys to be the best version of yourselves you can be. And it would mean the world if you subscribe, and I promise to do my best to make the best videos I possibly can for you on Visual Venture, and you are awesome. MK Ultra. For years, the MK Ultra experiment sounded like a made-up story. Many believed it was simply too cruel to be real. But in 1973, the truth came out. Declassified CIA files confirmed that MK Ultra actually happened, and it involved illegal human experiments.
It was the most secret program ever conducted by the CIA in the United States.
The worst part was not how extreme the experiments were. It was the force to take part in them. MK Ultra officially began in 1953. At that time, the CIA believed other countries were developing brainwashing and mind control techniques, but there was no evidence to confirm this. But the agency didn't want to fall behind, so they launched MK Ultra. The goal was clear: find ways to erase the memory and then control the mind.
Can we actually, control a person?
And how do you even start doing that? Like, it's like on some serial killer level shit. Like, trying to actually drug people and just test different substances that are going to, permanently fuck people up.
Yeah, we're fighting a little bit, but I don't know, this looks just too good to me. This just looks too V-shaped.
It included more than 150 separate projects.
Liquidity sweeps, high time frame PD array, V-shape of volume. Dude, this just makes sense. And we have a decent draw.
Dahmer's serial killer in what, the 70s or the 80s?
Projects took place in universities, hospitals, and even in public. And some of the methods were so inappropriate that keeping this a secret became necessary.
The CIA knew that it was breaking, every moral, ethical, and legal law in the books to do these experiments.
One of the CIA's main tools was mind-altering drugs. Researchers wanted to know whether dosing people made them easier to control.
Even people in the public were given drugs without their awareness or consent.
Yeah, what was that one story? I think they did it to a town in France or some shit where they drugged the bread and the whole town walked. Where did the CIA drug the bread? Yeah, Pont Saint-Esprit, France. In August of 1951.
This 15 be a struggle.
250 people, they drugged the food, causing hallucinations and 7 deaths. Theories suggesting CIA involvement. There's definitely Oh my god.
And experimented upon.
But secretly dosing people sometimes ended in disaster. Frank Olson's story is a perfect example. Olson was a scientist working with U.S. intelligence. In 1953, he attended a meeting with colleagues. During that meeting, the CIA spiked Olson's drink with a truth serum. He had no idea. Agents stood nearby and watched how it affected him. When the substance took effect, Olson became emotionally unstable. A witness described him as...
I don't want to say that you would know. I know this is the 50s too, and people didn't have as much knowledge on what being under outside being straight up roofies and giving roofies actually start to lose consciousness and memory. If I'm sober and you give me a glass of water with acid, I'm gonna know that I'm tripping. okay? Like, it's not gonna be a truth serum because I'm gonna be like, wow, I feel really fucking weird. You drug me. You're not gonna know what you're on. But you're gonna be like, I'm definitely not sober.
The effect lasted for days. A week later, old
Hey!
he was staying at a hotel. He suddenly woke up in the middle of the night and ran around the room in his underwear. Then he fell from a hotel window. He didn't survive. But Olsen wasn't the only victim of MK Ultra. Many MK Ultra experiments took place in hospitals and psych wards. However, some of the most damaging experiments patients were already vulnerable. Instead of receiving proper care, they were treated like guinea pigs. MK Ultra doctors wanted to learn how to erase memories.
And he thought that if you could bring a person back down to a blank slate, remove all the environmental inputs that have been put into them, and then you can build them back up in your image into whatever you want them to be.
The methods used were too
That's not even like, not only not feasibly possible, like, how would you, if you were to mind wipe, like, a 35-year-old man, how are you going, what are you already,
Not
how are
good.
you targeting specific memories? Because are you mind wiping everything?
Not good, my friend.
Like, are you
Looks like such an
starting to
obvious
think
play, and now it looks like I'm just getting touched.
I know it's fine, but I'm saying, like, are you removing memories or are you removing functional capabilities as well? Because if you're removing just, are you trying to get rid of, like, okay, what their name is, their childhood, all this, and then they're going to be like a blank slate that still understands what math is in society, but they don't know where they are or who they are? Because, like, that's what you would want. If you were to mind wipe somebody to try and create them into some weird, like, sleeper, you know, agent that you can form to whatever you want, you would want them to still be functionally capable in a way that they still understand English, and they still know what math is, and they still know how to drive a car, they just don't know who they are, where they came from, how they got there. Yeah, like, literally, like, yeah, fuck, like some shit out of Marvel.
Many patients didn't understand what was happening. That made it nearly impossible for them to refuse. By the time patients were discharged, they were seriously affected.
He never came up the same. He had a blank look in his eyes. He didn't know who we were. He didn't know we were his daughters.
MK Ultra experiments also took place in prisons. Inmates were given substances and the reactions were closely monitored. The program continued for nearly 10 years, and so many of the things they did were illegal.
They were also experimenting with aerosol LSD. Like, can we disperse it into a crowd? Disperse it over a city? What does it do in water supplies? And just some insane stuff.
Like, there's people that you willingly want to take LSD. There's people that have great trips, and there's people that have bad trips. But I don't see a world where you dose somebody with LSD without their knowledge, and anything good happens. Like, okay, put it in perspective. I've taken mushrooms, right, multiple times. I've tripped, and I've had good trips, and I've had bad trips. I'm not advocating for mushrooms. I don't think you should do it. You know, I think there is medicinal purposes, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to get into it. Okay, it's a conversation for another day. Besides that, if you gave me psilocybin and didn't tell me, I'm guaranteed, I'm going to know that I'm tripping. But I'm going to go, what the fuck? Like, because you're just going to be in such a bad mindset.
1963, the CIA officially ended MK Ultra. This was the explanation recorded inside the CIA director's office.
His office reported, the concepts involved in manipulating human behavior are found by many people, both within and outside the agency, to be distasteful and unethical.
After the program ended, the CIA director ordered most MK Ultra files destroyed. The goal was to keep the experiments hidden, but that plan failed.
Have you tried diphenhydramine? Isn't that like Benadryl? What the fuck is that? Yeah, bro, I mean, yo. I was gonna say that's what it's
God, bro.
Motherfuckers that take like 20 Benadryl and then see a happen.
Fuck, dude.
That's not.
Years after it ended,
Do I close this bitch?
Have you ever taken Benadryl? Yeah, take Benadryl, not in high doses.
the reporter found out
Kratom, I have a little video and all this stuff.
about the program and blew the whistle.
Oh,
In 1974,
bro.
Seymour Hersh exposed the MK Ultra program when he wrote about it for the New York Times.
The article caused public outrage. Soon after, Congress launched an investigation. The CIA was forced to admit the truth.
During those hearings, the CIA finally admitted that this program existed. They admitted that it was probably not the right thing to do, but they feigned innocence.
And then most of the records were destroyed. That meant the full scope of MKUltra could never be known, and victims were left without justice. Up next is an experiment that intentionally instilled fear in people. The Landis facial expression experiment. In 1924, psychologist Carney Landis began a study on human reaction.
Landis facial expression experiment?
He wanted to know if everyone makes the same face when they feel the same emotion, like fear, disgust, and so on. I mean, it was a reasonable question, but in trying to find the answer, Landis created one of the most horrifying experiments ever, and those who suffered most were his test subjects. Landis recruited young college students for the study. On paper, the plan was simple. He was going to trigger emotions like disgust and joy, and capture them on camera.
So he needs to get rid of fear emotions to get what you want.
The first thing he did was
Yeah, I could.
Trying to get like a sour face, is right, or like sad and happy. Like, how does this go back? Like, start to hurting people?
paint thick black lines across the volunteer's face. He said the markings would help track facial expressions in photos. Next, he mounted a camera on the wall. It was positioned to capture everything. At this point, it still looked like a normal psychology study, but things were about to get dark. Landis wanted to see the face people made when they felt uncomfortable. To trigger that reaction, he showed volunteers a set of unsettling images.
Then he shows you medical photos of people with horrendous skin conditions.
The volunteers were clearly distressed, and the camera recorded every reaction. Next, Landis moved on to fear.
Then he goes behind the curtain and sets off a firecracker to capture on film the exact moment of your fright.
He didn't just use firecrackers. Landis also fired a weapon close to the volunteers. Once again, his goal was to capture the exact moment of their fright.
This
Then
sucks.
The experiment escalated. Landis told the volunteers to close their eyes and stick their hands into a metal bucket. Inside, they felt something slimy.
I feel like the higher time frame is like we're delivering that way.
Recorded their expressions, but he wasn't
But-
finished. He instructed them to search the bottom of the bucket for an object.
So after searching,
Can't they just say, like, are they required to do this? I feel like at some point a volunteer would be like, yes. Like, Second Grove fires a gun off in the room. I'm out.
Through all these plots for some time, finally, the participants found their surprise.
Their hands touched a live electrical cord. An electrical shock ripped through their bodies.
So the participants were also getting shocked by that time. And that time, there were facial expressions were also released.
Still, Landis
Why are we doing this? Like, what is this bettering in science? Like, what is learning the human facial expressions gaining?
wasn't satisfied. He wanted stronger reactions. Landis brought out a small mouse.
I got fucking killed it.
His luck. Then he ordered each volunteer to end the mouse.
And if they didn't, he would do it for them, in front of them, while they watched.
Almost everyone asked Landis if he was joking. They quickly realized he wasn't. Landis wanted to take a photo of their faces as they carried out the act. Many volunteers refused at first, but Landis pressured them. One by one, most of them gave in. About 1/3 refused to do it themselves, but Landis didn't let them off the hook. Landis did it himself. He made them watch. The camera clicked again and again. The experiment was over. Now it was time to assess the results. After triggering all of these emotions, Landis reviewed the photos, and he found no clear pattern. There was no typical...
I'm talking about the draw is obviously higher. Let's get scooting.
Person to person. In fact,
Let's get scooting.
mouse in front of people and electrocute them and shoot a gun near them to figure that one out. I mean, this guy's an idiot. This guy's. I could have told you that. I could have told you that. Watching people on a day-to-day basis. Yeah, what smiling looks like for some people is different for others.
smiling was the most common reaction, even during unpleasant experiences. When Landis published his findings, many people criticized how the volunteers were treated. The part involving the mouse caused the most outrage. That's why today, the Landis facial expression experiment is remembered for its cruelty, not its science. Up next is an experiment that had lasting consequences on a child. The Little Albert experiment. Fear is a survival tool.
I'm shocked at how I haven't heard of like I heard of the first one out there.
The one just endangers me.
We've gone through some fucking
Whoa.
issues here in
At 7 a.m. volume. Hopefully it doesn't just come down and cook us. Just in case.
It warns us from dangers near. For decades, psychologists
Yeah.
argued about where
Let's see what happens here.
Are we born with it, or does the world teach us what to fear?
I would like this to accelerate price upwards, but
They wanted to train someone to fear something
yes,
specific,
yes,
even if
yes,
that
quite.
was harmless. Before the experiment could begin, they ran into a major issue. They couldn't use adults. Adults already have memories and life experiences, so they know what's scary and what isn't. The researchers needed someone with no sense of what could be scary. Ideally, they needed a baby. The researchers eventually found a baby in a hospital where they worked.
It is weird how like young infants don't fear like scary masks because they still don't have a full recognition of what like a normal human looks like.
Man.
And then after
Oh, is this it? Am I just done?
like 3 or 4 whatever, like clown masks and shit are terrifying.
The baby's real name was never reported. In the study, he was called Albert B. Albert was only 9 months old. The researchers planned to teach him fear. To do this, they used a method called classical conditioning. Here's the concept. If you pair something harmless with something frightening, the brain may link the two. If you repeat that pairing enough times, the brain learns a new rule. This object means danger. The researchers decided to test this idea on little Albert. They began by showing him a white lab rat. Albert showed no fear. He tried to touch the rat. Next, they showed him a rabbit, a dog, and a monkey. None of the animals frightened him.
First, as you see here, the investigators demonstrated that prior to conditioning, little Albert had no fears of any animal.
At that point, the scientists needed a way to trigger fear. They struck a steel bar using a hammer. The noise startled Albert, and he burst into tears.
I mean, do we really need associates having to piss or shit or
What a funny time for me to turn my volume up.
animal brain is going to do that. Like, you don't need to do this to figure that out.
Now, they knew what made him scared. The researchers showed Albert
Yeah, everyone's all trying to do that. That's what I'm saying. But like, why are we doing this then? Why are we now showing the kid a rat fucking striking a drum or a bar or something scared?
the rat again. He smiled and reached for it just like before. At that exact moment, they made the loud noise again.
In the conditioning phase of the study, which was not filmed, the investigators struck a steel bar with a hammer whenever Albert reached for a rat.
This is
Albert
it.
heard the noise and
This is it.
strengthened the connection
Yep.
repeatedly.
Ah.
After several rounds, the scientists finally got the result they wanted. Albert didn't need to hear the noise anymore. Seeing the rat alone made him cry.
The investigators believed that the child's reaction during this trial demonstrated his newly acquired fear of white rats.
They successfully taught a baby to fear something specific. The experiment wasn't over yet. The researchers wanted to see if Albert's fear would transfer to similar objects. So they placed the rabbit in front of Albert. It was white and furry, just like the rat. Albert cried. Next, they brought in a dog and a monkey. He cried again. It seemed Albert was
Yep,
scared.
and now we're gonna eat ass to the downside. Yay.
And they burst into tears. The researchers planned to remove the fear later, but they never got the chance. Albert's mother suddenly left the hospital with her child. Maybe she realized something was wrong. No one knows for sure. What we do know is this. Albert never received treatment to reverse the fear. For decades, Albert's identity remained a mystery. Researchers only knew he was born around 1919. Finally, in 2014, investigators believed that they finally identified him. They concluded that he was a man named Albert Barger. They wanted to interview him, but they couldn't. Albert already passed away at the age of 87. Instead, they spoke with his family. They described Albert as gentle and calm, but there was something strange about him. Albert couldn't stand being around animals. It was so bad that family members had to keep their dogs in a separate room when they visited. If Albert Barger was
Wow, they really, after one day of doing this, or like 2 days of doing this, they like permanently fucked him up.
really little Albert, it's possible that the fear from the experiment never faded. The little Albert experiment showed that fear can be learned through classical conditioning. But the fact that they used
Do you think there's any way that could have been reversed, though? Like, through, like, I think what they would have had to do is, like, the mom would have had to, like, slowly, immediately try to reintroduce him. Like,
Yeah.
she just left and then went on about her day and kept leaving it.
Sucks.
Exposure therapy. But, like, immediately.
the baby was just wrong. This next case answered the question, how easily can you make a good person do bad things? The Milgram shock experiment. Most people believe they are good. In the early 1960s, psychologist Stanley Milgram decided to test that belief.
Stanley Milgram was interested in the psychology of obedience.
Milgram designed an experiment to answer one dark question. Can a good person be pressured into doing something evil simply because their leader or boss orders them to? Milgram's question was inspired by the events of World War II. After the war, many people involved in horrific crimes were put on trial. Almost all of them gave the same excuse. They were just following orders. As a psychologist, Milgram found this blind obedience deeply troubling. He wanted to know if ordinary Americans could also be pressured to hurt others.
Decided to see how subjects would react when a researcher pushed them to do things that went against their morals.
The first step was selecting volunteers.
They didn't actually shock people in this experiment, didn't they? Like, you could say psychologically this is fucked up, but they didn't actually make people shock somebody else. They would press the button and then somebody would face scream in the back. Like, ah!
Yeah, I got so cooked.
And eventually, like, if you're not to the high point, they wouldn't respond or something.
Here's this experiment. He put out an ad offering $4 for 1 hour of their time. But Milgram turned away anyone with a violent
What year?
history or criminal record. He wanted everyday people to do nothing wrong. Once the volunteers were selected, the experiment began. Milgram conducted the study at Yale University.
$4. What year was that? $4 after World War II. So it's like at least probably the 70s. When was the mill ring? 1961. $4 in 1961 today. $43.
University. But he lied to the volunteers about the purpose of the experiment.
Volunteers were told they were taking part in scientific research to improve memory.
Each volunteer sat at a desk with a machine in front of them. That machine delivers a shock. Wires connected the machine to a chair in the next room. Each volunteer watched as another man was strapped into the chair. Electrodes were attached to his body. Then a barrier was placed between them. From that moment on, the volunteer could not see the person in the electric chair. The instructions were straightforward. The volunteer would ask a question. The man in the chair would answer. If the answer was wrong, the volunteer would deliver an electric shock.
You're going to read these words out and see if you can remember. And if you can
Shots weren't all the same.
we were told to increase the voltage with each wrong answer.
That was the task. Press the button and shock the person for making a mistake. Milgram wanted to see how far volunteers would go before they refused.
Cloud, forest, rock, house. Answer. Wrong.
Each shock triggered a reaction from the man in the chair.
Wrong. 150 volts.
However,
150 volts? Wouldn't that fucking kill you? How many volts? How many volts kills someone? Above 50 volts is considered dangerous.
so there was one more thing the volunteer didn't know. The man in the chair was an actor. He wasn't actually being shocked. His reactions were fake. As the experiment continued, the actor yelled to stop. At this point, the volunteers hesitated.
He says, I don't know. Please continue.
He says he doesn't want to go on.
We must continue.
But the researchers insisted that they continue.
The experiment requires you to communicate your frequency.
And most volunteers did. They felt they were doing something wrong, but they kept pushing the button.
So the guy keeps getting it wrong, Around 250 volts, he's screaming.
Some volunteers strongly protested.
I'm not going to kill that man, okay? He's going to take responsibility for anything that happens right now. I'm responsible for anything that happens to him.
Continue.
Eventually, the man in the other room went silent.
I think something's happened to that falling there.
Oh my god, dude. You know how scary that is? Shocked. This is the last shock and he just has no fucking response.
At that point, the experiment ended.
You just think he killed somebody?
Milgram published the results in 1963.
Two-thirds of volunteers were prepared to administer a potentially fatal electric shock when encouraged to do so.
In total, 65% of volunteers went all the way to the maximum 450 volts. That meant that if the shocks were real, they would have ended the person in the chair. Milgram's experiment proved something the disturbing. People don't need to be evil to do harm. Sometimes they just have to be told to do it.
Decent American.
It's a fucked up experiment, but this is like one of the only ones where what was taken away from it is like it explains a lot of like war, where one guy can make millions of people die by basically just commanding the people below them who command the people below them who command the people below them.
Citizens who is capable of committing acts against their conscience, as the Germans had been under the Nazis.
The monster study. What could make an experiment so disturbing that people called it the monster study? The study was created by Wendell Johnson. He was a respected professor at the University of Iowa. Despite his success, he lived with a deep personal struggle. Johnson stuttered a lot. Stuttering is a speech impediment that disrupts the normal flow of speaking. Back in the 1930s, doctors believed stuttering was caused by a biological defect. In other words, stutterers were simply born that way. But Johnson had a different theory based on his personal experience.
You know what fascinates me is Tourette's. I always I've seen people with Tourette's. I've never actually met somebody with Tourette's. I've always wanted to know like how that works. You know, like I know the science behind it, but I'm saying Jizzy has Tourette's. Jizzy has Tourette's. He has like smaller tics. Really? What, where he blinks? Yeah, like this. I thought he just does that. I'm more so talking about people with Tourette's that outburst physically. You know what I mean? Like people that curse and like they just have like things they say. Like usually they'll have like a set view that kind of just like outbursts and then like maybe they change with time. I'm just like, how does that work? Like your brain just immediately triggers you to do it unconsciously. It makes more sense like the with the eyes like blinking because it's like a physical thing almost versus something that's like verbally based, like a vocal thing.
Apparently, he had spoken normally his whole life until the age of about 5 or 6.
I gotta ask something.
So, when a teacher told his
Did he talk about that?
parents that he was starting to exhibit a bit of a stutter,
That comment from his teacher was a trigger. Johnson became anxious about speaking.
He talked.
Over time, yeah.
I've never noticed. See, that's what's so, I've never played, and I've played games with him, and I watched it. I just never know. I've noticed him blinking, but I thought that's just him blinking.
He developed a stutter.
looking back, he concluded that it was a self-fulfilling prophecy. Had he not been
Crazy about it, and lazy at Tourette's.
so worried about not developing a stutter and so obsessed over his speech, he never would have become a stutterer.
Well, yeah, okay, sorry, we're getting really sidetracked. The coughing I also didn't notice, because when I've been playing with him recently, he had the flu.
Johnson wanted to prove that stuttering was caused by negative feedback, not biology. To do this, he needed kids who could study without interference. In 1939, Johnson walked into an orphanage and told the staff a lie. He said he wanted to give the children speech therapy. The staff agreed, thinking Johnson would help. Johnson ran the study with his graduate student, Mary Tudor. Together, they selected 22 kids. Some were stutterers, others were not. The researchers divided them into 4 groups. The first group was made up of kids who
Man, the past couple of days I've been getting cooked, and cooked.
So the researchers praised them all the time. Everyone in the second group was also a stutter. In this case, the researchers wanted them to feel anxious, so their stutter would worsen, therefore they would criticize constantly. The third group was full of children who spoke normally. They were praised and encouraged to keep speaking just the way they were. Then there was the final group. These children spoke perfectly before the
Oh my god, and I wanted to give them a stutter.
study. The researchers wanted to make them start stuttering. To achieve that, they were constantly criticized. They were accused of stuttering even when their words were clear.
They were told you must try to stop yourself immediately. Use your willpower. Do anything to keep from stuttering. Don't ever speak unless you can do it right.
After that, the researchers recorded what happened to each group. The 2 groups that received negative feedback were deeply affected. The children who already stuttered became more anxious, and just like Johnson predicted, their stuttering got worse. But what about those that the researchers were trying to turn
Imagine
into
being a
stutterers?
real
All that
trader
didn't
and
work.
having
The criticism
imagine
did not
being
make
a
them
real
suddenly start
trader
stuttering.
and having
However,
no
it
idea
shattered
what
their
prop firm
self-confidence.
space
Every
is,
child in
and
this
then you're
region
just
began to
scrolling
struggle
on
in school.
TikTok
Some of them
and you see
refused to
some
talk,
kid
even to their
copy
friends.
trading 35 accounts, and the title of the video is "Here's How I Made $86,000 in 3 minutes." Imagine how mad you would be because you have no idea what a prop firm is, and you've spent the past 5 years
Johnson showed results to his colleagues. They were horrified. They published in the studies that destroyed the community. According to reports, they were the ones who nicknamed it the Monster Study. Johnson never published the study. He hid the documents and hoped his actions would stay buried.
The children also weren't debriefed after the project was over, and they just left. They didn't know, hey, we were part of an experiment, by the way, to try and, like, somewhat vent the fucking anxiety that he gave them. They just left. They were just like, all right, well, we couldn't help you.
There was no real follow-up on how they may have been affected by the study long term.
When Johnson passed away, he was praised as a respected professor. At that point, no one knew about the orphans, but that changed in 2001. A reporter uncovered records of the monster experiment. When the story became public, people were outraged. Some of the kids from the experiment were still alive. They were now in their 80s. Most claimed they struggled with anxiety and shame. The survivors sued the state of Iowa, which is where the study took place. In 2007, the state paid almost $1 million in compensation. There was no debate. The monster experiment should have never happened. This next experiment got so destructive it had to be stopped early. The Stanford Prison Experiment.
So he said, wait, this happened again. Bro, you're a dummy. This happened in, like, the fucking 30s, bro. There was just a picture of kids in black and white from, like, almost 100 years ago.
This experiment was designed to create an atmosphere of oppression.
I'm sorry, I was just a stupid. You know how they say there's no stupid questions?
For years, Zimbardo studied how people behave in prison, the military, and even offices. In each place, he noticed the same pattern. People in power often treated others badly. Over time, Zimbardo formed a theory. People didn't commit cruel acts because they were born evil. They did them because the situation allowed it. Simply put, power can bring out the worst in people, but it was only a theory.
I mean, yeah, I don't want to say this is also one that you probably could have known the result beforehand, but I would say a lot of philosophers thought about this. A lot of religions and a lot of just like historical proceedings in general and how everyone's desires everybody's desire root power. Not everyone, but most things that people want result or root power. If you want money, money is power. If you want, the athletic is power. If you want this, like everything that you go to is some level of power or like power grip in some way that people try to do.
To test it, he needed to create an environment where power could be abused. That idea became the Stanford Prison Experiment. Zimbardo built a makeshift prison in the basement of a college building. Cameras were installed to record everything that happened. He added cells, a prison yard, and a guard station. The goal was to make the prison feel real enough to shape behavior. Next, he selected 24 couples.
Honestly, power and control. Control is power. And that's why the big criticism I have.
Amazing ways to reimagine such a simple song without sacrificing
how,
its
like, a lot,
Unfortunately, the song failed.
obviously, like, certain pastors and people doing something wrong. But a lot of these things, like, people end up doing fucked up shit. Because, like, a lot of stuff in belief sets in general, like, control and control.
I was convinced to take part in the two-week experiment. Zimbardo split them up into two groups. One group was brought other prisoners. To help the guards feel powerful, Zimbardo gave them whistles, batons, and mirrored sunglasses. The sunglasses gave the guards powers to make it easier to act with empathy. Zimbardo never told the guards to be cruel or misuse their power. He simply gave them authority and watched it out. The prisoners, on the other hand, were stripped of their person. They wore identical clothing that erased their individuality. Their names were replaced with ID numbers.
So that they would begin to think of themselves anonymously as numbers, no longer as people with names and identities.
From the start, the imbalance was clear. On the first day, the guards were polite and careful. They still saw the prisoners as fellow students. Soon, the mood began to shift.
On day two, there was a very stark change in the whole nature of what was happening in that prison.
The guards started raising their voices. Guards punished prisoners for minor mistakes. Their authority was settling in.
The guards then began to escalate their use of power. Some of them had prisoners clean out toilet bowls with their bare hands.
If a prisoner resisted, they were locked in a small closet. This was their version of solitary confinement. Within the first 4 days, 3 prisoners were so affected that they were released. By the 5th day, the remaining prisoners looked exhausted. When they lined up for inspection, they seemed scared. The guards acted differently too. They were now tyrannical. It seemed like they forgot that they were just students in an experiment. The situation situation was out of control. It was just a matter of time before someone got hurt.
And at that point, we said, enough, we have to end it.
The experiment was scheduled to last 4
Yeah.
But Zimbardo shut it down on the 6th day. In 1972, Zimbardo talked about
You wonder how bad it is. There's a whole movie on that too. How like they genuinely treated it like it was prison.
experiment at conference. He also released a film showing real footage of what happened. Public reaction was intense. Some people refused to believe the results. They argued that Zimbardo unknowingly selected people who would be disposed to authoritarianism. But others believe the experiment proved Zimbardo's theory. Normal people can change when placed into powerful or powerless roles. Decades later, the Stanford prison experiment.
I think this is an extreme example as well. I think if you were to redo the Stanford prison experiment, I don't think in every situation the guards would become this weird, like, fear-mongering, power-wielding, like, dictators, you know? I think a lot of the time they would just treat it as, like, some stupid experiment. But I think it does show that most people in a position of power are more likely to abuse that power than not.
The consequences of this next experiment affected thousands of people and lasted for decades. Project 4.1. Project 4.1 was officially described as a medical study. Scientists wanted to understand how radiation affects the human body, but this experiment was never planned in advance. It began because of a disaster. In the early 1940s, the U.S. set out to build the most powerful weapon ever created, a nuclear bomb. But there was only one way to know if they were on the right track. They needed to test the nukes they were making. Testing meant detonation. The military needed a remote location to blow stuff up without drawing attention. They chose the Marshall Islands in the Pacific Ocean.
The Marshall Islands is mostly made up of atolls, which are ring-shaped coral reefs with a lagoon in them.
Now we're just gonna sit here and just do nothing. that was it.
But the military
Cool.
Between 1946 and 1958, the US carried out a series of nuclear tests, detonating 67 giant bombs in the Marshall Islands.
The tests continued for years. The explosions grew more powerful. It was just
I feel like the test not only probably gave the people of the islands radiation poisoning, but wouldn't it affect all of their food supply and shit as well? But they weren't all huge. They were probably just bigger bombs. But even then, you're just like killing the environment, like all around you. Or even if there weren't people, you're just fucking the ecosystem in that area.
at a time before something went wrong. On March 1st, 1954, the military carried out another test. The scientists miscalculated the strength of the blast. It was more than twice as powerful as predicted. A cloud of radioactive debris shot into the sky. It drifted toward the nearby islands.
And then there was the wind. It blew in a different direction than what the scientists expected.
So they didn't blow it up that close, but they didn't calculate the potentiality that it would be like drifted elsewhere.
And carried nuclear fallout to nearby populated islands.
On the ground, locals noticed something falling from the sky. It looked like powder.
My cousin Eloise, he was on top of two whenever the powder fell.
Kids played in the powder. Adults touched it. Everyone
Oh my god. Wouldn't you die in like weeks?
breathed it in. He got on everything. Clothing, food, and even toys that the kids played with. The exposure continued for days. They had no idea that it was toxic. After the fallout, the researchers faced a choice. They could warn the locals and evacuate them, or they could treat it as a research opportunity. Behind closed doors, military leaders and scientists made their decision. Instead of evacuating the locals, they decided to use them as test subjects. They called it Project 4.1. The U.S. knew the danger that the contamination posed, but didn't share that information with the locals. As health problems began to appear, medical teams arrived on the islands. They claimed they were there to help, and they did provide some medical care, but in reality, they were mostly collecting data.
And after testing nuclear weapons on their island, the U.S. studied the Marshallese people without their consent.
The experiment continued for years. Findings from Project 4.1 were published in U.S. medical journals. The health effects were studied, documented, and shared. Eventually, the Marshallese became their own nation.
The Marshall Islands gained its independence from the United States in 1979.
By then, many locals already understood they were harmed by the testing. In the 1990s, newly declassified documents revealed more details about Project 4.1. Finally, the world realized how the victims were treated as test subjects. The project was condemned worldwide. Some even believed
What happened? Like I'm not like obviously it's fucked up, but like did they have higher increases of cancer and tumors? Did some people just like flat out die? Like what? Because they were far enough away from the bomb that it wasn't as immediate as like Hiroshima or like Nagasaki. Like the people there literally would just die from the fallout, or it like fucked up future generations.
The radiation exposure wasn't accidental, that it was premeditated. Sadly, decades later, many Marshallese people are still living with the effects of the blast. History taught us a lesson through these experiments. When we treat people like test subjects, we lose our humanity. My friends, progress should never come at the cost of innocent people's lives. So whatever you're building, make sure you're not destroying someone else to get there. Visual Venture.
That was a good video. That was actually a really good one. The little baby friend experiment's crazy. How real this is. I mean, you only need to experiment to see that's true. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like Cassidy's, it's like, all right, yo, let's run this experiment to just prove something that we already know. I got a message for that.
It's an hourly though, like.
Oh, Grandma. Grandma, is that you? Grandma! Is that you, Grandma? Starboard systems on high. Lock in. It's so loud. You can't deny it is a vibe, though. I wonder what 120 SLB is. Yeah! No, that's crazy. Hey! Let's do something like doors on quick. That look good. This look good here. Yeah, that's good sensitivity. Yeah, we good. Yep. Live, Sam has a ground for this. What is that? Is that like a road? What is it? Have the ground for this view, what did we just do? Take a nasty or something? I just took a nasty. What's this? The office called earlier this morning and I had to rush out. This was wait. Your grandma's maid suddenly quit, so she'll be alone for the whole week. I need you to go stay with her. Help her out. If I send things here, I'll come try to help too. And I know grandma can be a little difficult and leaving, but this all happened so sudden. You can catch the bus from the stop. I'm good. I'm not gonna lie. I'm good.
Nice.
you even come from? I haven't made a grandma's in years. When am I even gonna do that?
It's a nice little crib, though, not gonna lie. It's a nice little crib. So we ain't been at grandma's house in years? Ooh, this crib. I still got something else to figure out. I'm sorry, dude. I'm sorry. We gonna go to here. Something like that. We good. That's good right there. That's good. The house look clean on the house. The house is undeniable. Look at, oh, look at the kid, man. No. Look at the kid.
What a shit day, bro. What a shit fucking day.
Wait. So wait, if I do this, so if you use the zoom in function, it resets. But if you pause and unpause, it resets it back. Okay, got it. Ugly wall color. Hey, I personally think it's nice. I kind of like the wall color. Put some respect on it. What was this? Oh man, this bathroom fancy. Ain't no shower though. Man, this thing fancy though. We leaving the house? I guess I'll leave out the front door. This is kind of like. This is giving like bathrooms almost.
Yeah, this is just as chopped and chopped. Why are we even reversing right here? Like, we didn't even hit anything, really. Like, are we, like, smacking a 786? Like, I guess we are. I don't know if I'll take this, but I'm just kind of eyeing it. Dibba-dibba-ba-dibba. Yeah, this shit's, this price action's doo-doo. Doo-doo. Oh my god. Yeah. I might film, because I might trade FOMC. I'm not sure.